experiences of God's children, how they encountered God, the unique experiences they had, and what God has been able to do through them, for them, and in their lives. Today, I have another guest who will be sharing his experience, moment, the turnaround season and point in his life when he decided, all for Jesus, and here I am, Lord, use me. I have with me in the house Pastor Samson Amos Binders, who will be sharing his experience with us. Pastor Amos Binders, welcome to the Damascus Encounter.
It's a privilege.
Thank you very much. So, I know that you grew up in the church and you were born Seventh-day Adventist, but can you share a little bit of your childhood moments or who Pastor Amos Binders is with us?
Well, as my name implies, I'm by name Samson Amos Binders.
Okay.
I'm born in Plateau State, which is my state of origin. And all of my life has been in the church. I've been that church boy, where to a very large extent, mommy would church every Sabbath due to the nature of our local setting. We don't really have time to go to the church for weekly activities. So it happens that to a very large extent, whenever we have the opportunity to be in church, we are there. So with that, I grew up as a church boy, and in my own case, I am passionate about singing. I have a singing group in the church.
Okay.
That whenever it is time for rehearsals, whenever we have opportunity, I find myself there. So naturally, I just love the Lord. I love the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and it is part of what I love doing, to see how I will be a child of God and keep my body for the Lord.
Okay. One interesting point that comes up always on this program is the aspects of people's lifelong dreams, what they grew up wanting to be. And somehow, maybe it either got fulfilled or it did not, or it got fulfilled, but God made it happen through some other means. So, in your own case, you wanted to be an engineer.
Sure.
Today, you are a pastor. So, what was it about engineering that was so attractive or that got you so impressed that made you want to do it at all costs?
Right. About engineering, when I was about leaving JS3, graduating from JS3,
as junior secondary
school,
yeah.
My father drew my attention and asked me what I want to become. Hearing about different professional courses, engineering, accounting, and all of those professional courses got my interest. Probably saying that I want to become an engineer without really knowing what it's all about, I believe that I will come to study to know more about it. But I just answered him on that grounds. So with that, we finished our junior WAEC and going to SS1 in my school, which is an acronym that stands for Theological College of Northern Nigeria, Staff Secondary School. We have, when you're coming for your SS1 class, the first thing you have to go through is having time with your counselor, who will definitely ask you of what you want to become. Right? As that is concerned, we were in the class and everyone will have to stand. That is the purpose of that first class. So everyone was just saying, I want to become a lawyer, engineer, call all the professional courses. And as the small Seventh-day Adventist boy, but why is it that no one is talking about anything that has to do with spirituality? And lo and behold, I grew annoyed in my heart. And when it was almost getting to my turn, and my teacher asked me to stand to say what I want to become. Lo and behold, I said, hey, I want to become a pastor. Not because I had the intention. And
but because every other person was
saying something different from what I was expecting.
But why did you feel in your own mind that people should not have thought of some other things apart from, they should have, why is nobody mentioning spiritual things in their lifelong plan?
On a personal ground, I somewhat, should I say it should be God impressing in my heart.
Okay.
That's number one. And number two, there is a way I was groomed in the church, in the kindergarten, that, hey, you should look beyond now and this world to heaven. That I felt if we should have something around spirituality with us in whatsoever we are doing, heaven will reach heaven. So I just say that casually, not because I wanted to become a pastor.
Yeah, because it's interesting. You discuss with your father, you want to be an engineer.
Sure.
In school, you want to be a pastor. So,
yeah.
So what happened after this?
All right. After that, even when I said that, not because I really wanted to, but I just felt as if there is power in the tongue. That quote, power in the tongue, is so obvious. It seems as God just stamped it, and it remains so. Because even after saying that, what was on my mind was something different.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to study. I was beginning to work towards becoming a lawyer. So I told my dad something different.
Before you got to the lawyer part, you had that experience of your grades beginning to show to you maybe engineering is not the way, and then it has to be.
Sure. Before going to that, I was beginning to look at my thesis, because you have to go through art and science courses at the same time, so that the counselor will be able to dictate and counsel you appropriately on where to go to. So with that, I noticed that in my science courses that should make me study engineering, I was getting half over 20, 1 over 20, 1.5 over 20. And then my arts courses, most especially CRS, 18 over 20, 19 over 20, history and government. If I'll be getting a B in history, obviously I'll get an A. If I'm getting a B in government, I'll be getting an A in history. So my history counselor actually counseled, because she's a person taking us both of the subjects.
Okay.
She said, Amos, you are doing good on these subjects. I'll prefer you to write in your WAEC history, but carry alongside the government. Attend all of my classes. So that began to change my perspective. That brought the law part of it into my. That was what I was really pursuing. That even when I was about coming to school, I was fortunate to have opportunity to come to Baptist, where I applied to study the law, international law and diplomacy, with the intention of switching to study law after 2 years, because I was told law was not yet accredited, but by the time it will be accredited, I would just switch. So as God will have it, when I applied, I was offered to study history and international relations. Without knowing nothing about the course, I was encouraged that it's still a good course for me to go for. I gave it a try, and wow, it's just in line with something I always want also.
Okay.
So I ran through my program in the Department of History and International Relations, and I graduated. With that, I went to serve in Kaduna, where in the course of service, the church I was attending, practically everyone around sees me to be a pastor. Like even while I was running my program in Babcock, some people are thinking I'm in the Department of Theology, as if I'm running theology.
Why is that?
Well, I don't know, probably the way I carry myself, and I always tend to be very careful and do things the right way, to please God always. That's always my priority in all I do. So with that, even in Kaduna, that was what some elders in the church, when they want to talk to me, they're like, hey, Pastor Amos. I keep on telling them, hey, allow the God to call me now. Why are you calling me? And it has just been happening practically everywhere I go to. Even in my neighborhood, a woman selling in a provision store, I just dash in. I just felt to pray with her. I prayed with her, and the next day I was passing, she was like, Pastor. It's like, hey, because I prayed with you yesterday, that's why you're
Yeah, but it's pastors that get to pray with people. Especially when you don't even...
Well, on a personal ground, I just felt that should be a responsibility of every Seventh-day Adventist. You don't need to be on the forefront of ministry as a pastor. I always say this. If we should wait until the pastors take the Great Commission, we'll wait for more than who knows. Because
forever.
The field is wide, but the laborers are few. I always believe that in my area of specialty, let me be representing Christ. Let me share the gospel with someone. So that has just been my own case. So in the church, people have been seeing me like that, and even practically everywhere. I forgot to say this, even while at school, after making that pronouncement in secondary school, I love basketball. Like everything. So whenever we're inter-secondary school competition, Milo competitions as it were, my basketball coach would always say, hey, Pastor Amos, pray for us. I was like, could something be wrong with this man or something like that? But obviously, it just seems as if God stamped my word from the beginning. And I remember going for a life mission. And we were just discussing, like 5 of us.
Okay.
And like 4 of them, with me the 5th person, all of them, something similar was in their mind. And what was it? At the same time, all of them were like, see me as a pastor. Why shouldn't I go for the pastoring thing? One of them just had the courage to say, hey, I'm sorry to just say this, but there is something in my mind. I was just seeing you speaking like a pastor. I was like, come on. Then the other person was like, hey, please, let it not be as if I want to exaggerate. But the truth there is that that is just what is on my mind. And likewise, the other persons also concur with them. I was like, hey, people, please, can God make that calling and allow it to come?
And you still were not convinced?
Oh, it was not in my radar screen. It was not close to my mind about that. Okay. Because for the fact that I went for Alive Mission, Alive is actually an acronym that stands for African Living in View of Eternity. And then I am a missionary volunteer. And as I rightly said, in all that I'm doing, he speaks to me straight as the realist I am. He don't mix words for me. And that always encouraged me.
You enjoyed spending time with him?
Oh, whenever I'm with him, it's always a good time.
Okay, let's hold that thought there. And when we come back, we come to listen to what Pastor Bindas shared with you, what he said to you, how he motivated you, and how eventually you started seeing the light of what you want to or who you are today. Don't go away. The Damascus Encounter will be continuing in a short while, and stay blessed. No. We'll take a short break now, and when we come back, we'll continue our sharing with Pastor Amos Samson Bindas, who will be letting us into exactly how he started getting a firm grip of God, calling him to be a pastor. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We have been sharing with Pastor Samson Amos. He has letting us into his world, growing up, how people, everyone around him seem to be calling him pastor, and now God is beginning to show him what he wants him to do. We'll get into the discussion as Pastor Binders continues his sharing. Pastor Binders, so you have this mentor, your uncle, who incidentally is a pastor. And when he sits down to talk with you, he shares with you very insightful, deep thoughts that you hold very dear. How did this begin to shape your mind and your thought towards accepting the call and the prophecies of all those who have been calling you a pastor?
Right. After my youth service, trying to live life in Kaduna, when I finished my youth, I never wanted to go back to Jos to start up a life there. I was like, let me explore life here to see what here holds. That's Kaduna.
Okay.
And in the course of that, I was thinking of how will I finish everything? How will I start? So the best grounds for me was to apply to the school I was teaching so that I can continue teaching with them, not knowing that the management were looking for an opportunity to keep me back.
Okay.
But they were like, hey, this young man is so good that he will not want to stay here.
I want to stay.
I might feel big for the system. But not knowing that I was having in mind also to stay back. So with that, before I made the step, the HM of the school actually came and met me and requested that, please, if it will just be a term for me to remain with them. I was like, hey, all right, no problem. I accepted to stay with them for a term. And when the time was coming to an end, I was almost trying to tell them if I could have an additional term. Meanwhile, she's already coming again for another additional term. So that was how it has been for me with them until we spent a year with them. So there was a man that came to my church. He's not an Adventist, he just paid a visit, and on a particular Sabbath he gave a magazine to me particularly because he said that was the only magazine he had. So he gave me the magazine. It was actually a discipleship kind of magazine. Where I stayed in Kaduna, there is this discipleship program that is going on that those who are running the discipleship program are called disciplers.
Okay.
So when he gave me the magazine, I kept the magazine because I was having a list of books I was studying. So I just don't want to jump into that one. But I noticed seeing an advert of a school. So I felt that school is a big school. Let me just apply that one. When I applied the school to work there, the discipler refused to show his identity to me. But when I got interacting with him, I get to know that he's the owner of the school. So what I did was, because of how open we were, I just told him, hey sir, I am going to resign where I'm working so that I would come, that you give me a job. So he was like, hey, no, go and apply first. He told me to go and write my application to bring it the following day. But I went back home, wrote the application, and I brought it to his table, to his home. I followed him back home. And he told me, all right, they will get back to me. Early in the morning, I had a call that I should come for an interview. I went for the interview, and lo and behold, he was telling me, hey, I should immediately resume working. I was like, wow, this is interesting, but sir, I'm working with someone. It will appear somehow for me to just abandon them.
Just live like that.
Leave them stranded. So he was asking me, how long will I want to go and do that? I was like, please allow me to get back to you. Let me go and finish up with them. I went and we talked with the madam, and because she was not ready to lose me, and I was telling her I got another opportunity because we are so open, we are just like family with them in the school. So I needed not to hide anything to her. Opening to let her know, she grew angry. And she was like, I should give her my resignation letter. I was like, ma, I just came so that we can talk about this. so we can plan. You keep me for as long as you get someone to replace me. But she grew angry that I'm going. So I had to go and collect paper from one of the staff, put in my resignation, and I gave her. Before I reached the lodge, because it was a corpus lodge for the school, she called her brother who is taking care of the house and tell him, hey, as soon as this guy is coming, the reason why he's in this house, but for the fact that he is going, he's leaving us, he needs to pack out that same minute. To where? Meanwhile, I talked to the brother as, I'm staying in this house because I'm working here, but how about, I love the comfort of this place, how about me being a tenant paying now? So the brother felt I got a bigger job, so there would be money coming in. So he wanted to start charging me as a hotel per day. I was like, hey, I didn't get no job with any federal government too. I just got a teaching job that you wouldn't expect me to be paying as if I'm in a hotel. He didn't know that I went and made all of my surveys, and I know that in a year with that environment setting, someone used to pay 18,000 naira. So he tried to like say I should go and finish with his sister. The money would be going to his pocket. So he wanted to protect that interest. When the sister was saying I should go, he's trying to protect. Then the director, her husband, actually sent a message that if I do not leave that house, he will come and embarrass my life. And one thing I don't like in my life is that embarrassment thing. That's why to a very large extent I tend to be very calm. I take my time to do everything to avoid all forms of embarrassment. Probably that might be some of the areas people are thinking I should be a pastor. So with that, I called a brother, a friend, Martin Dangana, to help me look for an apartment around his area so that I could come and stay. But he told me, what was it that is so urgent that I wanted to leave that area? I told him that was what happened. And he told me, hey, can I come and manage staying with him in their boys' quarters? His father is a lecturer in Polytechnic, in one of the polytechnics in Kaduna. That if I can manage staying with him in the boys' quarters before I could readjust, since this is emergency. He was so kind enough. He took me to the house. I was like, hey, do I have a choice? I needed to have a place to stay. So I moved in with him, and Mr. Martin, to my surprise, was like, hey, I should come, let's go to the market so that I can get some beverages for breakfast, so that he knows I'll be moving out to work early in the morning and breakfast in the house will not be ready. I was like, hey, please don't stress yourself over myself. I have gotten a place to sleep and to be going to work. That's all I want. He insisted, I insisted of not. And we just left that aside. I continued with my work with that discipler. And working in a spiritual environment, thinking my spirituality should grow, it was depreciating. And God led me to a wonderful family again, the family of Mr. and Mrs. Nadams Nuhu, whom in the course of service, one of their, I don't really know how they are related with the lady. I don't know if they are family friends or cousins. Her name is, what's her name again? It's skipping my mind. Sorry, I will get to remember that name. Okay. We were serving together with her. So she said I should visit her in the house. And when I visited her, we went to the boys' quarters in the house, and we gisted because the father, Mr. Nadams, is in the house with visitors. So we could not stay in the house. We went to the boys' quarters to gist, and I ended up going. I saw the boys' quarters. It was as if things were just packed in there. So, and that's the route to where I'm working. Staying in Poli was a bit far to go to the point that the school vehicle will come and pick me. With that, it's part of what was beginning to make my spirituality down. Because if by 6:30 I'm not there, the vehicle will be going. And I will have to spend close to 400 naira to the school. So it's the time I'm supposed to stay with God, quality time in my devotion before going, I notice I'm always in a haste. So it began to depreciate my spirituality. And with that, I met with Mrs. Nadams. I talked to her about coming to stay in the place if I would be renting. Mrs. Nadam told me, let her talk with her husband. She talked with her husband, and she'd get back to me after 2 days that I should come and check the house if I can manage staying. Her brother is staying there, but he has gone to school. I was like, manage staying? How much will I pay? That I will not pay anything. I now asked her, I noticed there is light in the house. Can I use electric stove? Or I just want to make sure I get protocols in the house so that I will not mess up with anything. She was like, what will I use the gas cooker or the electric stove for? She said, I cannot be in their house and I'll be cooking. She dragged me to the main house and to the kitchen, to the store and to the deep freezer and the freezers to say, feel comfortable. In case, she went as far as, in case they cook anything and I'm not comfortable, I should make my cooking anything.
Okay. So, so far so good. God had shown you care. God has shown you love, because we are running out of time. So I wanted you to talk about how eventually you accepted or you found yourself becoming pastor in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. How did that happen?
Right, it all happened still in Mr. Nadam's house. I had a comfort in that house that I had time to meditate best. Like it was like a quiet time for me staying in their house, because God blessed them to be a blessing to me, to give me a comfortable environment. The father, a wonderful man, having library in his house that I usually go there to study. I can still picture the family Bible in the house I've been using in the house. So working with that from their house, my spirituality was beginning to go low. So I ended up meeting him, the father, to tell him, Kai, the man is not paying me my salary.